Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
6-wicket win then for South Africa. They take that. Would you have liked that a bit sooner? Doesn't really matter because that net run rate is significantly healthy now. It keeps them pretty in the second position alongside or under England in Group 1. And Australia now, they really be hoping they slip up. Otherwise, if it comes to a head-to-head battle, you think South Africa have the net run rate in their hand after this win. Convincing, Bangladesh disappointing for Mahmudullah's side on the night. On Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout powered by Dell. We'll be just having a quick look back at that game and then we'll look ahead to Pakistan against Namibia. The toss has already gone down. Shahriar, Nafees and Ajit Agarkar with me. You think South Africa would take that, even though again with bats slightly scrappy, Ajit?
They'll take it because they've got the 2 points that they need. They're still a fairly healthy net run rate. Uh, they they were made to work hard by Bangladesh, and Bangladesh
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of quicks in their attack. So, yeah, South African batting is still not where they'd ideally want it to be, but they've got an important win.
Yeah, I think they were neck to neck at the power play stage. You're wondering, is Bangladesh going to make something spectacular happen here? But to be honest, it's been a really disappointing day for with bat for Bangladesh, Shahriar. Shahriar, you with
Get
us?
that.
Yes, please.
With the bat, like it had been very disappointing performance throughout the tournament, especially in the Super 12 groups. The batsmen doesn't look. Batsmen don't look confident enough in a T20 match. It's all about confidence, and if you're not confident, then it's difficult. I think it's the pressure of like you're losing and you're taking a lot of pressure on yourself. The problem has been Bangladesh is not been able to coming out of that pressure situation and play freely.
They've got a game now against Australia, Shahriar. Australia would be looking at this today and thinking maybe we can trouble Bangladesh with some quick stuff.
I think Australia will be very much up for this match because they have just lost a series against Bangladesh. Yes, they didn't have their few top order batsmen, but still the bowlers were there. So it will be a very important match for Australia in two ways. First of all, they need to win that match so that they can be up neck and neck with South Africa for the second qualification position. And secondly, it's they want to take a sweet revenge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a result that the West Indies wouldn't like to. It makes their odds a little harder in terms of what they need to go their way. But looking at how this group is placed, Ajit, South Africa wouldn't mind playing England in the last game suddenly because England have now assured themselves of qualification, could possibly rest a few key players. So would they back themselves? How do you see this group panning out now with Australia to play Bangladesh and the West Indies and South Africa to play England?
Yeah, if England decide to go that way, where they tinker with their team, I'm not sure they would. Why mess around when something is working for you so well? Unless there are a couple of niggles. I think Mills had a injury mid-game yesterday, so he may not play, and that gives already an opportunity. Maybe Mark Wood comes in if he's fit. That still makes England very formidable. So I can't imagine them making too many changes because the top order has been doing so well. So maybe the middle order might need if that opportunity arises, some runs, because before an important game, you want everyone in decent form. Their bowling's been pretty good, but the batting hasn't quite been tested because of how good their bowling has been. So, but if they do make those changes, then I think they'll fancy playing them. Otherwise, England are far too strong at the moment, and even after today's performance of South Africa, which will give them a lot of confidence, if England play their first 11 and play at their best, it won't be easy for South Africa to beat them.
All right, fair enough. Sure, Nafees, thank you very much. We got one more day of your company, again, the game against Australia. We look forward to that. Always a pleasure having you on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. We'll continue the chat with Ajit Agarkar. In a few moments, we'll also be joined by Shan, Masood and Peter Borren as we now look ahead to Pakistan against Namibia. And we're wondering, Ajit, last evening, whether England look the most well-oiled team in this tournament, or was that tag going to Pakistan after England batted first yesterday? Certainly, Tom would certainly it was England. Today, we're going to see Pakistan bat first today because Babar Azam's won the toss and he wants to have a bat first, perhaps just to change things up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean they've assured themselves qualification, and in all
Yes.
likelihood they're going to end up this group on top. And against a team like Namibia, you don't mean them any disrespect, but if Pakistan play to their best, whether they bat first or bowl first, it is not really going to matter. Funny things happen in the game, so they'll still have to play well, get the job done, and it's a good opportunity to test their batting, which in my opinion, still has a few holes. And because their bowling has been so good, just like England, their batting hasn't been put under too much pressure. Yes, Asif Ali hit those 4 sixes the other night, but till then they were under quite a bit of pressure. Afghanistan, till that point, looked like they had the game in control. So Pakistan, now they have an opportunity to test their batting out because they'll be trying to set the score. I mean, Pakistan are doing a lot of things right. Even
Yes.
this decision could easily have been saying, okay, bowling first is working for us, but they've put themselves in that position where they can afford to tinker a little bit, and they've decided to bat first. So it might be a good move as well.
Yeah, it looks like Babar Azam saying at the toss that he wants his batters to be tested. We are wondering if he's going to change those batters up with Pakistan nearly assured now of a semi-final spot and even topping this group. Could there be room for a Haider Ali or could there be a few changes? Shan Masood, very good evening. It looks like Babar's identified his 11. He wants to stick with it and he wants to test his batters today. Do you like that call?
Good evening. Yeah, I think it's a big statement made by Pakistan today that they're willing to sort of explore something that they might eventually face in the semifinals. If they're asked to bat first in the semifinals, they don't want it to be their first experience of batting first in the competition. And secondly, you continue with the winning sort of combination. There are a few guys like Ajit Bhai mentioned that need to get that time in the crease in. When it comes to bowling, they need Hassan Ali to sort of fire up and to be sort of as respectful to Namibia and Scotland. Pakistan would be sort of going into the semi-finals we're still going to use if they qualify after facing Namibia and Scotland. So in terms of sort of the intensity that the other teams might get of facing better teams, the other teams might have advantage. So for Pakistan, it's very necessary to carry the momentum on and make sure that they always put in their 100% and they carry that momentum into the semi-finals.
Come on now, let's not use if they qualify. No, we should be respectful. But I can see some of the social media banter going around that it wouldn't surprise the most diehard Pakistan fans that they've brushed aside the best teams in the group and now they slip up against a Namibia or Scotland. Surely it's not going to happen, Shan.
Surely not. I mean, that's why this side is riding on a high, and
Yes.
you expect them to sort of make 5 out of 5. Cricket's a funny game. We've seen the wicket today; it looks a bit spicy. 3 left-handed fast bowling options for Namibia. That'll be interesting. But again, for Pakistan, it's more about putting themselves. They're confident enough that they're saying, okay, if we qualify for the semi-finals and we get to bat first, we're busy preparing for that. So I think it's a very big statement made by Pakistan today.
Well, it would yet play into the hands, you'd think, of a Namibian side. It's a very good evening to Peter Borren as well. And Gerard Erasmus is very happy with Babar Azam's decision, Peter. He says, I would have bowled. And this is a team that is not effectively out of the tournament. They can pick up an upset today. We are still talking about Namibia as serious contenders, or at least certainly stronger contenders than even India in this group. So they'd welcome this decision that Pakistan have made to have a bat first and give their left arm seamers first choices this weekend.
Yeah, obviously, huge challenge for Namibia tonight, and they're going to need to have an impact with that new rule. We saw it in the game where they played against Scotland, where Trumpelman came in and swung the new ball, and they're going to need that tonight because they're desperately going to need some early wickets. And I think can they get it right with the new ball if they have what they had against Afghanistan and they let Afghanistan with 50 for none off the power play. If this Pakistani team is 50 for none with Babar and Rizwan sitting there after 6 overs and the batting to come, I think they'll be in trouble. So Namibia are going to really have to rely. Trumpelman's going to have to swing that new ball and they're going to have to get it right. And otherwise they're going to be under the pump. I don't see this Pakistani team. From what I've seen, people talk about Pakistan perhaps sometimes letting their foot off the gas. I just think I look at this team so far in this tournament, I just don't see it from them. They're such a professional-looking outfit. It's going to take something special from Namibia, and it's going to have to be the new ball. Without that, there's just no chance for Namibia. So Trumpelman's going to have to get the job done early.
Yeah, they have relied on their left arm seamers causing some sort of damage, Ajit. And you were with us in the afternoon game. Is today a different day? Are we watching a slightly different service with a little more in it for the faster bowlers from what we saw? Will that continue likely in the second game?
Yeah, I think it will, without a doubt. I think under lights it might spice it up even more, if anything, because there seems to be a fair bit of grass. We saw both. I mean, Bangladesh, if they had a couple more seamers, South Africa didn't look comfortable themselves when they were chasing. And fortunately for them, they were only chasing 80 odd. Uh, so yeah, I mean, Namibia won't mind it. He said it at the toss, and they really won't mind it if they can get a couple of early wickets. If the ball does a bit, they'll still have to bat well when they're chasing whatever Pakistan said. But that seems to be their best chance. Just try and put Pakistan under a bit of pressure with some wickets, and you never know what happens. They fall short by what a pass could be, and Namibia sends an outside chance. If they had to set a total, it becomes a little bit trickier. Once you have a target, at least you can approach it a bit differently. But for that to happen, they'll have to bowl well and get wickets up front. If they don't, then Pakistan will certainly get to a score which will be tough to chase.
Yeah, this is now a nice test which we haven't seen in this World Cup yet, Shan, of Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan, who like their 140s and 150s to chase. Do they have the power game in them to take Namibia on? That's been the big challenge for a lot of teams batting first. They've just not been able to figure out the rhythm and tempo to start off with when they are batting first.
Look, I think two things. First, you look at Abu Dhabi and that not being a high scoring ground. Surprisingly, the average score has been 127 before the South Africa Bangladesh game. So when you're talking about Pakistan posting a score, realistically, they'd look at 160, 170 initially and then see how they start off and sort of analyze it and how many wickets they have left, what score they put on in the power play. Second of all, I think in this ground, having played there a lot, and especially under lights, the trickiest time to bat is when that sun sets and when there's that little bit of daylight fading out and the lights are still on. So this 6 p.m. start would probably be the trickiest start for Pakistan. And having seen the pitch with a lot of grass on it, Namibia having three left arm seamers. So their work will be cut out. It'll be interesting to see how they start off that power play. They might have to sort of start it off by being a bit watchful against the moving ball, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, are you happy that they've stuck with the same 11 though? Heather Ali could have been floated in as an option. Sometimes you might need someone to come in on a semi-final, maybe give them a game or two. Which way would you have lent on this game?
100% on sticking with the winning combination and knowing a lot of the guys, especially in the middle order, like even Fakhar Zaman hasn't got a proper bat in. Hafiz has not got the runs. Malik has not got a proper. Malik and Asif Ali have finished games, but what if Malik and Asif Ali walk into the pitch on a semi-final where Pakistan are 30 for 3 or 30 for 4 and they have to sort of consolidate before they can take off. So even their lower order when it comes, Shadab hasn't had a bat, so they might promote Shadab Khan. So there are a lot of options in the playing 11 that's played before Pakistan can sort of maneuver anything like that.
All right, so no changes then for Pakistan. Shan Masood's very happy with that. Namibia, we thought they might go with the same team. They like the look of their team, Peter, but they've made a couple of changes today. I can't believe Piquet France is not playing. I'm happy because I'm at least getting to mention his name. I just love that name. It's just a brilliant name. Piquet France is out. They've decided to go with a little more pace, it seems. Bench Congo, we'll see for the first time in this tournament. And Stefan Bard is also in. Out goes Bernard Scholz. So those are the two changes they've made, Peter. Any insight on that?
Well, they definitely needed to get Bard in there at the top of the order. I think if you look at the games from Namibia, they've really struggled at the top three. He's got a bit more experience. He's their one-day international opener, and they know what they're going to come up against tonight. And as we saw in the first game, there's a bit of pace in this wicket. That might have been a call that they made today in terms of taking the spinner out and getting the extra seamer in. And we'll see how Chikongo goes. But definitely the Bard thing, the top three from Namibia, they've had a reasonable tournament in terms of the first round was magnificent for them. But there's been no runs from the top order. So they had to make that change, really, get a bit more solidity in there with Stefan Bard, who's got a bit more experience. It's obviously going to be a huge challenge for him, having not played for the last 3 games and then coming up against the Pakistanis tonight. And on this wicket, it's not going to be easy. We saw the Sri Lankans under lights at Abu Dhabi They rushed the Namibians. The 3 quicks were a little bit too quick for them, bowling 145, 146. We saw them struggle with that pace a little bit. So tonight's going to be similar, and particularly having a look at the wicket in that first game, later on is going to be a real challenge for that top order.
But yeah, I think those are fair changes. I think we saw the bowling the other day of Lofty Eaton. He bowled those leg spinners through the middle. He 4 overs for 21. He did a good job. And Schultz, the left arm spinner, well, his role somewhat nullified. So getting an extra seamer in there is a good shout from Namibia, in my opinion.
Yeah, right. So stronger team, you think, for Namibia, at least horses for courses for today. Shan's happy with Pakistan side. We're going to spend a little time today on Asif Ali, right? We've spoken a lot about Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan, even Shaheen Afridi. We're going to spend some time on Asif Ali today because he got them that win effectively with those 4 6s against Karim Janat of Afghanistan. And he has been a bit of a rare breed in this tournament, which is those middle order hard power hitters that have actually turned up. A number of the others haven't. Hardik Pandya, Kyron Pollard, Russell's had a soft tournament there. You can go around the Super 12s and identify these number 5s, number 6s that do it around here in T20 franchise cricket and bilateral cricket, but who haven't been able to do it this time. We'll just look at their numbers. Those were Asif Ali's tournament numbers. It's the kind of impact that you want from a guy, but you've also seen Asif Ali do this. If you look at just his striking ability, we're looking at the least balls per 6 in T20s since 2018. Asif Ali is there in a list that also features Andre Russell and Kyron Pollard, two players that haven't had the best of tournaments so far. He's had quite the story, hasn't he, Shan? Asif Ali in Pakistan cricket. There were those that wanted him in a lot sooner. Any insight on why he seems to have got his role going effectively while a lot of the others, including those two on that list, have struggled?
Well, personally, I believe that I think we put too much pressure on power hitters because expecting someone to come in and face about 5 to 10 balls and smack 3 4 6s out of them and do it every game, that's impossible. I think what helped Asif Ali was this PSL. When the PSL broke off due to COVID and got shifted to Abu Dhabi, he went right into situations where the team was about 4 down and there was a game against Lahore Qalandars and he scored 70 where Rashid Khan, Shaheen Shah, Haris Rauf, and they had a pretty solid James Faulkner, a pretty solid sort of bowling attack. And then he played an innings where he batted about 10 12 overs. Islamabad were 21 for 4. He got them to 150. And that's the sort of belief he needed as a batsman to play those longer innings, to just realize that he's not just a power hitter. I mean, yes, when he has to face about 5 to 10 balls, he'll have his fun and he'll try smacking the 6s, but he knows he has another gear in him. So he's been more confident in his ability. He's been more confident in his skin. He carried that great form into the national T20. And once he got into the World Cup and sort of got that sort of monkey off his back where he did well against New Zealand and he did well against Afghanistan. So that little thing that Asif Ali always struggled with was not coming up with the same as the international cricket. And hopefully that these two games have given him the confidence to go longer. The next step would obviously be, can Asif Ali play more balls and be more effective for Pakistan? And I'm sure he'll be looking to do that.
Yeah, I saw those numbers in T20s. He also features high up, as you'd expect, in a list for just Pakistan in T20 eyes. Does Asif Ali? It's amazing that Hassan Ali features right up there, but Asif Ali will take that 26 sixes, 11.4 balls, so 6 every couple of overs if he gets his eye in. Ajit, has there been anything about the type of shots, if we had to just be honest with it, with what Asif Ali has done in comparison to, say, Pandya, Pollard? Shan talks about recent form. We know Hardik's not enjoyed that, neither has Andre Russell. But is there anything about Asif Ali and the shots he's hit that perhaps explains why he's been successful?
I mean, when you have form, you're a lot more confident. You probably watch a ball a lot better. You pick the right shot to play. I think even those 4 6s, none of them have been slogs. He's actually picked the right ball. He pulled one or hit the ball straight, even on the slower ball. So you perhaps take the right option as a batsman when you're confident or when you've got form, because you watch it that much more closely. And that's perhaps what he's doing different to some of the other power hitters. I mean, someone like even a Stoinis or those guys haven't really had too much success at this point, at least in the World Cup. So maybe playing in these conditions regularly helps, knowing what sort of lens to pick, what not. But it's the form. I think we've seen throughout this World Cup guys with slightly better form have adapted to this World Cup a lot better than someone who's been out. And even I mean, especially at the position that he bats, you don't really have any time. So if you don't pick the right options, it is always going to be difficult. And at the moment, he's doing it better than some of the other power hitters.
It's not been the World Cup of the 200s or the World Cup of the power hitters, Ajit. We keep talking about testing condition, taking a little credit away from the bowling? Has the bowling been any better to these guys, the likes of Russell, Pollard, Hardik, and the power hitters have found it that much harder?
Yeah, I'm sure there's been a little bit in the pitches. There's no doubt. I mean, Sharjah is a bit different to say Abu Dhabi, and forget today's pitch in Abu Dhabi. It has a lot more for the seamers. But in general, there's been a little bit more bounce. The boundaries become bigger. So as soon as you get it out of the arc of some of the power hitters, and they don't quite get it in the middle, you always have a chance as a bowler. Bowlers have been able to bowl a bit aggressively because of a little bit of extra bounce. You can use the short ball a lot better with big square boundaries. So you've got to give credit to the bowlers, and some of these power hitters still haven't found an answer to it, which is which is all the credit to the bowlers. Even if you have a little bit of help, which gives you better balance between bat and ball, and at the moment the bowlers are doing a better job.
Even from round one, Peter, it's not like we're seeing big scores piled up necessarily by teams that rank much higher. It's been a unique sort of T20 tournament or a T20 World Cup where teams and power hitters and batting sides have been humbled a little.
Yeah, I think, as Ajit says, a little bit perhaps credit to the bowlers, but I think the surfaces definitely have an impact. I think we saw more clean hitting perhaps in the Oman first round group, where that wicket sort of had a little bit more bounce, a bit more even bounce. I think here, if we talk about guys trying to hit it out of the park at the death, haven't found it easy to do that off length. And I think it's no different in the power play. We also haven't seen too many teams go off in the power play because bowlers are coming with that new ball and hitting length. It's not been that easy. And as Shan said as well, in terms of coming in and smashing it from ball one out of the park, the surface hasn't been that easy, but it is such a tough job. I think guys get a hard time. I think Owen Morgan got a pretty hard time during the IPL. Of course, he wasn't in great form, but he comes in from ball one. Batting six in T20, it's a thankless task. It either goes well or it doesn't. And if you're confident, then you do what Asif Ali does. If you're not confident, you're on the hiding to nothing. And it's a really, really tough job.
What's been the tougher job though, Shan? Has it been the number sixes not striking as much, or has it been the opening bats batting first? Because I don't think we've seen one consistent dominating opening partnership batting first. Everyone's struggling to figure out how hard to go in the first six.
Look, I think that's the thing where people are matching expectations of the past, and then sort of they fail to take the conditions into account. These conditions were conditions where you had to, if you're batting first, get a score of 150, 160, and beyond, just a little beyond 160, and that would be a good score. Teams have either gone too slow or they've gone too hard. They haven't adjusted well to the conditions. And if we see the teams that have batted first, a lot of them haven't even put a score on the board in this World Cup, and that's made it easier for the chasing side to even sort of chase the target despite a few slip-ups, as we saw when Pakistan played New Zealand. They restricted New Zealand to 135, and then they restricted Afghanistan to 147. Take those scores to 150 and 160, and Pakistan probably would have been on the wrong end of the results. And I think that's why in a side you need balance. We put too much emphasis by watching franchise cricket and using the word power hitters. When it comes to the World Cups, the international cricket, and when the pressure's really on, you need people that can adjust. Look at Joss Butler yesterday. He was 50 or 45. Yeah. So you don't need specific power hitters. You need players that can play roles of both anchors and power hitters. And that is why I feel England are superior to a lot of other teams. And for that, you look at the boundaries per ball, and at the same time you also look at the dot percentage or the single sort of ratio. Can they sort of be up in both categories when it comes to, and England do that. They've got Livingston and Moeen Ali, both can bat as proper batsmen and they can bat the ball around. So you need people that can play both roles, especially in the UAE.
The Pakistan
just to follow up on Shan, I mean, West Indies are a prime example, isn't it? We always keep praising them, that they play 4 dots and hit a couple of sixes. As soon as those couple of sixes don't come, like they haven't in this tournament, they are looking woefully short. So 100% agree on what Shan has said. I mean, yesterday night was a massive example of a lot of the guys who say that's the way I play. I mean, Joss Butler completely changed his game for majority of their innings, and did exactly what was required for the team. It's a lesson for a lot of the players.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed that, didn't we? It was almost the template of how to bat first in this tournament, if the surfaces are challenging. Do Pakistan enjoy that balance in Rizwan and Babar batting first? What role do you see them playing, Shan? Has one been told to play the aggressor and Babar bats through as the anchor?
Absolutely, like Ajit Bhai said, yesterday has probably turned a lot of heads, and it's taught a lot of people how to bat first in these conditions. I don't think one would play the aggressor or other would play as sort of the anchor. I think both will go on about their business. They'll be very careful in terms of the new ball. And if one guy sort of gets going, that's always whenever I've batted it with Rizwan, the thing has been if one guy gets going, he takes it on while the other guy sort of we ease off the pressure off him, and then he'll obviously have his time later if a better matchup comes on. So they complement each other, they run between the wickets really well, and if they sort of don't get a good ball early on, you can expect them to put a good start for Pakistan.
Just as the Namibian players walk out, they've had their anthems. It's a nice, you could say, an ascending order of the teams that they play, Peter, from the first stage to now the Super 12s, first playing Scotland, then playing Afghanistan, now playing Pakistan. This Namibian team, regardless of how they finish in this group, this is such a great story for some of them, right? Now playing a team like Pakistan in a World Cup.
Yeah, 100%. And I've talked to a few people in the associate world in the last few days because what we've seen so far from Namibia and Scotland as well hasn't been. In the past, we've seen associate upsets at these World Cup. Hopefully, it's going to come, but they haven't been great so far. But my goodness, are they learning a lot? And we know the conditions have been challenging for all the teams, and for them, they're learning 500% more than the other guys, and they're only going to be better for it. What an experience! I can remember my times of, and you're going onto the park. It might sound a bit strange, but you're thinking, well, wow, I mean, we can compete with it. We're out here competing with these guys. We've worked hard and we deserve the opportunity. And I hope that they can show off their skills tonight. I'm a little bit worried for them in terms of competitiveness against such a good Pakistani team. But as you said, it's an incredible experience. They're learning a lot, and they're only going to be a lot better for it. They'll be better next time. They'll be better through the next qualification process. Because of this, they'll get a huge advantage over the other teams who have missed out. And I hope in the next couple of games they really put a good performance in.
I tell you what, I'm one of those that completely endorses the strong tweets and comments that come from the writers, which says, why are we worried about competitiveness when it comes to an associate side with a full side, when we've seen the sort of cricket we have in this tournament? We've seen West Indies bundled out for 55. We've seen Bangladesh and South Africa in an awful game for a viewer or a neutral this afternoon. So why are we putting it on the associate? So it's just thrilling. The Namibia story goes on. Let's hope we have a good game. Peter Borren, Shan, Masood, Ajit, Agarkar, pick it up at halftime on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. Do join us then. You never know. Playing a higher team, sometimes it just adds a little more to an associate side. Let's see how Namibia go with the ball, and we'll see you at our halftime break.
Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more, Dell.